Hey everybody, Kaysha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin.
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story, why we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Karis Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jade Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigation for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the Karis Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the Karis Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you, everybody, for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. Today we have with us Heath Campbell. He is a motivational speaker and is working to help people, get out of a slump that we seem to all be in after these, especially these last 4 years, 5 years or so. You want to kind of just introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me here today, Dale. Again, my name is Keith Gamble. Um, I've discovered over the course of my journey, it's especially over the past 5 or 6 years, this beautiful, I don't know, this beautiful awakening within my soul and in my spirit to be able to be in a position to help others find that within themselves as well, right? I am a firm believer that if you find unconditional love within yourself, you can then transmute that love outwards because all of us are just a reflection of our internal feelings and energy that we have within us. So that's something that's been really, really important to me. And I get to speak and, touch lives as well as enlighten people on different aspects of this reality that we live in, man. And a lot of truths that have been hidden from us can come to light that way.
All right. So I mean, everybody has noticed that. I mean, there's this complete lack of morale among people in these last 5 years with all of this oppression, and I mean, you're seeing this indoctrination go through the roof. And so, how do you see that? How do you see that affecting people on a day-to-day basis? Right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, man. I think the oppression goes way deeper than the past 5 years for sure. I think the oppression that we've seen on this planet goes back hundreds of thousands of years, if you want me to be honest with you. And it's very systematic. I always say that Rome never fell, it just became America, right? And there's always been a sense of control and manipulation and suppression of the human consciousness in order to put people in a situation where they're operating off of whatever functions that society or the powers that be wanted them to operate within. So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? You have people out there that are only putting their value and their worth based off of, the things that they have, their car, their money, their finances, their social clout. You have men and women arguing all the time with one another about whose ego is bigger and who's right and who's wrong and this, that, and the third. You have jobs that aren't taking care of their employees. You have, things like, what you guys are working on with the Karis Projects, like terrible sex trafficking and fear mongering, corrupt governments. I mean, the manipulation goes very deep. Religions who parade around as if they're trying to help people get closer to God, but really they're tearing them further and further apart, not only from themselves, but from that connection. It's just now over the past 5 years, people are coming up to a realization of all of this. And now they're wanting to do something about it because it's gone on long enough. The time is over. I can't hear you, brother.
oh, I like talking to myself sometimes. I mean, these are things that I've realized my whole life, right? Like, I knew that a lot of this stuff was a lie. Like, I was raised Christian and understood that some of these things there was a lot of evil in the world, and people tried to gaslight you and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, no, it's there. But now people are beginning to see the depths of the wickedness that is really there. That people were sitting around living a facade and ignoring this, and then now they have this massive beast that people are just like, where did that come from? It was like it was always there, right? Now you just bumped into it and the lights got turned on, right? So we're now sitting in this situation, and like, for example, like indoctrination, like this whole idea of this Marxist ideology that's becoming prevalent. I told people, I said this came into black community long before it came to white people, and this is true. This is how they started to deconstruct things, and even feminism that came in the black community. And they went and put it in a mega overdrive, and then everybody else followed suit. And it was like they were used as a test case. And so, thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. Anything that creates division is not the way that we should be living, right? One thing that I feel is, the more that, you take the time to find yourself and you go inward, the more that you realize that you're connected to everything that is. Okay. This is like, when you look at like different practices like Buddhism or Hinduism or like anything where you can like really sit with yourself and connect with yourself, you realize that there's no difference than me and you, Dale. This isn't Keith Gamble and Dale having a conversation. This is Dale and Dale having a conversation from two different perspectives and two different vessels. Because the truth of the matter is that we are not the temple, like we are not the vessel. Okay, the body literally is the temple that holds the essence of our true self, which does go on after and during on multiple levels within this reality. So when you think about Marxism, when you think about, feminism, when you think about Democrat, Republican, Christian, Hindu, Buddhism, whatever, anything that separates us needs to be completely destroyed, in my opinion.
I wouldn't go that far, because sometimes there is necessary separation, because when people are engaged in wickedness, I don't want to be around them, right? Like, do I want somebody that's going to come in and rob my house? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
We want to have unity, but there's some things that you could never be united with. Like, I could never have unity with pedophiles. I'm sorry. You rape kids.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that, right? So within reason, I can sit down and get along with anybody that's reasonable. But if you want to kill people for profit or you want to hurt children, that's a hard no. Sorry. Right? And so
yeah. I completely empathize with you on that standpoint. I do believe that something naturally takes place when you vibrate and you operate at a certain frequency, right? And this goes into thought processes when you think about like quantum physics or just life in general, right? Like, here's the thing, Dale. We don't know who we're walking next to, who we're talking to, who we're having conversations with on any given moment, right? And we all have a history. I know for me personally, I wasn't always this person, right? I used to be a guy that would go out and party all night and had no problem drinking, doing all sorts of copious amounts of drugs and, doing all sorts of stuff and being in the environments where a lot of those people really were, a lot of those people who were menaces to society, if you will, were operating around me. The thing was, the more and more that I operated within my truth, right? And the more that I did things that were against the foundation of what they believed in, the more that they naturally separated from me, right? Now, my whole thought process is it's not my position to judge anybody's journey, right? I can't, right? Because it's not only not my role, it's, it really stifles and again puts people into a box where I feel like, if you look at like the 12 universal laws, I believe there's like the 13th universal law that no one's really talked about, and I'm probably going to write a book about it. The law of continuous expansion and growth, right? And I believe that, as this universe continues to grow, so does consciousness, so does literally God, the source of all that is, the energy of all that is continuously getting bigger and more powerful. Therefore, us as humans have that opportunity to continue to grow and develop. So although, yes, there are terrible people out here in this world who do very terrible things, they may not always operate in that way. And they may actually come to their, moment where Darth Vader turns back to Anakin Skywalker, if you will, right at the end before throwing Palpatine off the bridge.
I see where you're coming from. I look at things a little differently. I've got an engineering background, and I look at things and I assess the way it is. And I look at the amount of time it would take for me to design very simple things and how much time, because I worked at a multinational corporation before COVID started. And we would have teams all over the world building massive structures. I was working in mining, and some of the projects that they took were years to build and design. Now, these things are nowhere near the complexity of human beings or even any living organism. And when I look at this tells me that there is a conscious thought, there is a designer, because order does not come out of chaos. That's nonsense. It's rubbish. It's a lie. It's illogical, right? Because
Uh-huh.
there has to be something that sits there in order, like mathematics. Numbers don't exist. The concepts exist in the mind. So why is everything controlled by mathematics? It tells you that there's a mind like mine that has a will, volition, and so forth, but far greater than mine that put these things in motion, right? And when I look at thermodynamics, the age of the universe is not even close to true, because what they tell you it's a lot younger than people think, because the laws of entropy means that everything in our universe, it dissipates, loses heat until it dissipates to nothing. If the age of our universe is correct, that means that there would be no usable energy and everything would have dissipated due to the laws of entropy. The laws of thermodynamics, they're constant. There's no way, right? Like, I mean, people say dark matter because, like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, so you call it dark matter. It's like really what it is. Like, I see so many things that I'm like, you can't. I mean, like, that's nonsense, right? Like, so a lot of the things we have to sit back and go back and start asking questions, because I have to sit down and think that there was a designer that put this in place that is far greater than any of us. And this is a designer that does not exist inside of time or space, because he created time and space and is unaffected by it. So for us to sit down and say like that we arose by ourselves, nonsense. That's garbage. It's illogical.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that over the course of time, as we become more and more connected to the field that is everything that's around us, that level of knowledge and awareness will start to pour into us more and more. And I only say that because I understand that through, my personal practices, right? And my personal experiences. And I believe that, there's some really amazing minds out there who are tapping into the thought processes around, geometric patterns and shapes, and how it, computes to matter, and how it all comes together, and how frequencies, whether it's vibrations through our voice and sound, or music that we listen to, or, different thoughts that we have, controls and not only controls, but changes the essence of the matter in which the field that we operate and live in. Now, that whole thing, like you're saying, was designed and put together on this beautiful, like, perfect, just perfect autopilot, like, cause and effect type of mechanism that we call reality. Now, I think that as we start tapping into this knowledge more and more, which has been suppressed from us for a long time, we're going to understand that knowledge that was suppressed, and then there's going to be more knowledge and awareness to be added on to that over the course of time. And I do believe that we're, not too far off. I believe that within our lifetime, we're going to understand this whole thing so much more than we ever have before.
Well, I think so. And when I look at it, because I looked at how people bring things across, and I've seen things from different religions and so forth. When I look at Christianity, I look at the Bible just as a critical explanation. I've never seen a better description of human nature in any document that I've ever read. Like, people might sit down and say all kinds of things. The one thing they can't argue with is describes human nature. And our technology may change, but in principle, people, they lied, they cheated, they killed, they committed treason, they did all the same things that we're seeing here. They put out the good, the bad, the ugly. But the one thing I don't strive for is, a lot of people talk about a balance between good and evil. But this is the way I see it. Good can exist without evil. If everybody was good and did good things, we'd be fine. Evil, not so much. Perfect. Evil is parasitic. It requires good to feed on to survive, because it's self-consuming. So I don't think there's no need for evil to exist. There is none. It can go out. We can live fine just having good, because we don't need negative experience. We can still grow and develop without them.
Mhm.
But when you look at evil,
Mhm.
evil does not have to exist. And one day it's going to have to end, because I can't live continuing like this, going through this or living like this forever. There's just no way. It has to stop, because it's nonsense. It's not necessary. It's illogical. It's really the way I look at it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that we were kind of, the world that we were raised in is a very quote unquote evil world.
Oh yes.
We,
Oh
we
yes.
were, we were we were born into the essence of really what is described as hell. I believe that that's what we were, really built into and born into. This very dense, very controlling, very fear-based society that was rewarded the more that you did egregious things to people and to different social groups and everything else. And again, like I said before, I feel like that was like, by design put in place tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago from my perspective, So yeah, I agree with you. And I believe that its time is coming to an end abruptly, more abruptly than a lot of people realize. There's a small faction of individuals out there on the planet right now who have experienced and seen and have a certain connection to source, to God, to all that's going on, that no one realized that there's a big shift that's about to happen, to say the least. And when that does happen, that those dark energies, those dark entities, that type of energy will no longer be allowed in our reality.
Well, I mean, evil has to end, right? Like
Yep.
it's like cancer. You can't just ignore cancer and expect it to go away, right? That's really
Yep.
it. It has to be cut out. It has to get dealt with. And people that want to give themselves over to that side, they have to be restrained, because the people that I see here that are going on day after day, they won't stop. They won't. It's like they are slaves to doing wickedness. It's like you can think of the
Mm-hmm.
most wicked thing to do, and they will always choose that choice. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that thinking. I don't. Like, I can see it, but I don't understand it, because that's not the character that I developed. It's not.
It's one of those things where, in order to quote unquote understand it, you have to be willing to go down a rabbit hole, which a lot of people would call conspiracy theory, right? And a lot of people would call, fairy tales. But to be honest, when you have these certain experiences, and again, I only speak from my own experience, okay? I believe that my role on either side was the same, right? It's either I was going to be Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader, right? And that's just the way my life was set up. So when I was in a position to become Darth Vader, I saw a lot of where that all trickles up to, where the control is, why it is the way that it is, and it's given me a lot more insight as to how to operate it. So when you look at like the deeper aspects of what that looks like, it's a lot more palatable to understand, and I think we would need more than an hour to go down that rabbit hole, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like for me, it's an understanding. When I look at the way that the Bible describes the evil and so forth, this
Mhm.
makes more sense because of the way that it looks. It's outlined as a war. And the war is a polemical
Mhm.
war. It's a war of ideas. But every idea that comes in, if it's not met with if it's not met with God's power of persuasion, which is love and reason, then the only
Mhm.
ultimately it will always lead to force. And this is what we see happening. Their first tactic is deception. But if deception doesn't happen and it doesn't work, then force is always accompanying it. You see increasing levels of force. And this is the
Mhm.
way that it operates. And there's a marshaling of the forces together to prey upon the innocent, the weak, and the vulnerable, right? And this is where I look at that the only thing that I can describe this like is satanic, because there's no other word that I can think of to describe this level of evil. Because regardless of whether you believe in God or not, when people generally hear the
Mhm.
term Satan or devil, you think of evil incarnate, right? And that
Mhm.
is what we're witnessing, is a level of evil that, yes, you see it, you can see why they're doing it, but it still doesn't, like, I mean, it's just like beyond reason that any rational thinking person would do this.
Yeah. And, again, yeah, I agree with you. I think, well, I know from experience that, like you said, the first thing is deception, right? Convince people that they are not who and what they think they are, right? And I think I did a post about this yesterday, where you'll be in certain circles and around certain people where you do not want to speak your actual truth, right? You want to suppress it because you're afraid of being judged. You want to be accepted, right? And there's like a vast network of individuals who are all on the same page of trying to deceive you, depending on how powerful you actually are. And if they are successful in deceiving you into believing that you can be controlled and that you can be manipulated, what ends up happening is you start creating a reality in which you start giving them power. Okay. So the thing, you ever hear the saying, humans and people just don't know exactly how powerful they are? Uh, to me, Dale, that's a vast understatement. Okay. Once you start giving your energy and power away to people and to energies who know how to use it and manipulate it, they can then create a reality in which that those people can be controlled. I always say that the war on drugs was a double whammy back in the 70s. Okay. For one, they got their slaves back by putting black people in jail for, football numbers for things like weed and crack that they put in the systems anyway, right? And then on the flip side, they shut up the rich white kids who were hippies, who were doing mushrooms, and they're like, wait a minute, love is the answer, not war. If we really come together, this whole thing can change. And they shut that down and made that a Schedule I drug, okay? Now, both were very effective, right? They shut down one message and then they got their free labor back on the other end. Okay. That level of consciousness that those rich white kids, as I say, those hippies were talking about, again, is coming back to the forefront. So when you start operating within that, you start to not take on people's, BS and people's manipulation. You say, no, I don't have to be this. I don't have to operate in this way. As a matter of fact, I think that you're full of shit and that I'm going to live the best life that I can live in order to create the reality that I want for myself. And that becomes contagious. That becomes like this universal consciousness wave, if you will, that starts to get us all aligned on the same frequency. And then we start changing the reality of this matrix. Again, like I said, it's a huge understatement that humans are very powerful.
Just before we go ahead, we got to take a short commercial break. You got to hear from the Pillow Man, and we'll be right on the other side.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
So if you guys need any of the MyPillow products, go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use the promo code Karis. They got lots of good stuff, bed sheets, pillows. He's famous for the pillows and all the other stuff. They have kitchen stuff. They have house coat slippers and all that good stuff. So support a good cause, or you can go to the action plan that you see in the ticker to go and help with some of the stuff that we talked about to fight against the human trafficking, or you can find ways to support. Or if you're watching on Rumble, BitChute, or Facebook, you'll see the links in the description, or you can go to all my links / the Karis Project. All right, so kind of circling back to where we're at, I want to just kind of go back on things on a little bit of a micro level when we're looking at some of, because you brought some stuff that they talked about in the Black community and the with the crack and then the drugs in the hippie community. Furthermore, is there was a more faith based and religious background in society as a whole and in the Black community. They ended up breaking that down, and when they broke that down, they began to break down the family structure. And Marxism, this Marxist ideology, which is like basically we're all the same, we're all equal. Like this is the same thing that feminism teaches. Opportunity is based on ability, right? And we have choices in life. Now, if we develop ourselves to a certain point to become better at something, we create more opportunity for ourselves. But this rewards mediocrity. And this is it makes people apathetic, and it is how you enslave people. So they brought this mentality in by breaking down the family structure. And they did this in the Black communities first. And then what they did, now you have a lot of single mothers that are working to go and look after their kids and everything else like that. And then who's got control of them? And then they did this when they brought in the feminism through the massive thing with the sexual revolution. You got a bunch of single parent mothers, women entering the workforce. Then you have the energy crisis. The cost of everything goes up. You can't go back to where you're at. Now who's looking after the kids? The government is now indoctrinating the kids, but who's influencing the educational system? A bunch of very satanic men and women that are now getting access to put filth in your children's minds. And then you watch, because I watch right now and I look at people like even in the white community, they're laughing at Black people and mocking them, but I'm like, the same things that were going on there is going on with you guys, but you guys are just laughing and not aware of it. And it's causing the demise of everyone. But just kind of go back. What were your thoughts on the progression of this? Because especially within the Black people, because they seem to be suffering the effects of this for a lot longer.
Yeah, I think we have been ruled by what I like to call like a toxic masculine type of energy, right? Where it's all about control, it's all about manipulation, it's all about destruction, it's all about deception, right? And stepping on top of one another in order to gain results. Okay. One thing that I've come across in my journey in my life is again, I don't have to operate within that function. Okay. I can find, a healed version of that can get me to another level. So let me backtrack a little bit before I even touch point on that. When you took away, when the Black family was divided even more so after the civil rights movement, again, the 80s, the 90s crack epidemic, a lot of people were going to prison. A lot of people were addicted to these substances. And as you said, they started shutting down the churches, and the messages in the churches were not as prevalent. When's the last time you heard a church bell, Dale? It's been a long time, right? So even that type of energy is no longer in the frequency in which that we operate. What ended up happening is that the women took on this toxic masculine thought process, and they were like, this is the way that we're going to operate. We don't care what people think. We don't care how things are going to operate. We're going to do what we have to do in order to make things happen, because that's the society in which that they were led to believe was the way to handle things. Okay. And what it did was it took away from what I would like to call, and what many call, like the divine feminine energy of the nurturing energy, the problem solving, the feeling things out, the being wise enough to see things from another perspective and to lead that divine masculine energy into creating things that actually work for the system. Okay. So I believe that was very systematic, and that was done very effectively by those powers that be, by those, Vanderbilts, the Rothsteins, the, Black Rocks, all these major groups and companies that and individuals that control the masses, for sure.
Well, I mean, when you look at the way that things are, men and women are very different. Women are not designed to do what men do, and men are not designed to do what women do. Like, anybody who tells you that, that's just nonsense. Like, I mean, we're supposed to be complementary to each other, not identical. And without
Absolutely.
the complementary nature of men and women, there is humanity just falls apart. Like, I mean, it does. Like, I mean, look at the last 20 years, especially these last 5 years. Like, I mean, we were working just fine, like reproductive wise and dealing with things. We think that in the last 10 years that we're going to just solve it and figure it all out. No, you just made it way worse because it's blowing things up. But what you're seeing here is that what the accomplishment of feminism did was to create a war in the home where you should have had peace and being able to focus on raising your children to make decent human beings to go out and help continue the world, right? Like, but now you're seeing people, like, I listen to one teacher, she's like, these kids, they can't even read, or kids can't think for themselves. Sure, you go to school for education, but your parents are the ones who teach you how to think. If your parents are expecting someone else to teach your children how to think, you got another thing coming, right?
The education system is so broken and it's so manipulative that it's not what you would hope it would be. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother. Go ahead.
No, I'm that's fine. The education system it is a lie. But with that, when women do things that they consider masculine, they become aggressive. Masculinity is not aggressive. It's not, right? Like, so when women try to emulate masculinity, they can't, because it's not what they're designed for. It's like men trying to mimic femininity, it doesn't work well, let's put it that way. And so there are differences that we do. And so a man and a woman, they have different aspects. So the woman has the nurturing and the man has the protecting. But most people don't really understand the depths of this, and a lot of men have been beaten out of their heads what they're supposed to do. A man creates the circumstances for his family to thrive. This is more important than money. People look at money and providing a shelter and everything else like that. That's in our society, most people do that. But what they don't see is what meant the intangible things. And this is something that's even very difficult for women to see because they're not wired to think this way. We are there to we a lot of the things that men do, you don't actually see them because we create time and space for things to happen. Women do not do that. They do not do this. They don't understand it, but they benefit from it. When they are with a man, they'll begin to see and understand, see the things that he does because they're around it all the time. But he helps his family to thrive and allows the woman to properly do her job. They're symbiotic. And this is why single mother families, their outcomes are so much worse because she does not have the stability and the safety and security that she needs and doesn't have the father to create the circumstances for the success of those children. And it's impossible for her to do by herself. It's just not possible. Just like a man can't be a mother and nurture and carry a baby, right?
Yeah, man, I agree with you on so many different levels on this, and some really deep levels. I agree with you on the things that you're saying. One thing I'd like to add to that is, I always say that if you want to know how the divine feminine is supposed to operate, or anything, if you want to know how anything is supposed to operate, look no further than nature. Okay, look at how animals interact with one another. Look how this planet is, which is this. Our planet is a feminine energy. Okay, what in the spiritual world we call Mother Gaia, right? And Gaia is this beautiful, giving, nurturing. It'll give you food. It'll give you shelter. She will give you oxygen. She will protect you from all the stuff that's in space. She will, shield you from different types of diseases and all this other stuff before humans started messing with it. Okay. The very food that comes out of the earth, if it's organic and you eat it and it's within your area, it will heal your body. Right. And this is all an aspect to create an environment in which that divine masculine energy can create and put more into that space, right? So when I look at the dynamics between man and woman within human interaction, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I feel like the healed energy really looks like. It's like, as you're saying, and I agree with you 100%, a symbiotic relationship between individuals and groups of individuals in order to create the best possible outcome for themselves and for the next generations to come. And the more and more, I believe, the more and more that you find the truth within yourself, like I said, and you find that unconditional love for yourself, you can then emit that outwards where you're not trying to fight against anybody for anything, right? This is the whole reason why Yeshua, who we call Jesus, was able to be on a cross and say, forgive them for they know not what they do. They don't know any better, but I have unconditional love for you because, you'll get it one day.
Well, what people don't understand, and a lot of people I hear people talking about love. And like, for example, in the Greek, they speak of 3 different types of love. They have eros, phileo, and agape love. And phileo is like brotherly love. Eros is like the one between a man and his wife, that type of love. And then you have agape love. This is the selfless love. When you look at this, love is a principle. It's not a feeling. It's a principle that causes one to act. Because when I read and I look at what, for example, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he is literally sweating blood. That's a condition that causes people to die. He's weighed down with the weight of the sins of the world. And they estimated about 140 billion people have lived. So if you're sitting there and you're weighing with the guilt of 140 billion people of everything they ever did, it's going to extinguish your life. That is where everybody's turning back. The devil's just like, hey, well, everybody turn against you. You might as well just forget these guys. That's not feeling good. That is the opposite of feeling good. And then getting put on the cross, humiliated, and then experience separation from God. This is why he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Because he was cut off from God, right? And so that is purely principle and no feeling. And this is why, and he had to be a man to do this. A woman could not do this. She would have physically dropped dead long before this, because we are physically stronger as men and can take more punishment and abuse. It's just the way it is. This is why we're the protectors, the women are the nurturers. And this is why we are supposed to be that safeguard for the women. This is the way it is. But when I look at this, I have to begin to understand that love has to be here. I have to know what I'm doing, because you cannot indoctrinate someone, because it's not about how I feel. It's about how I know what's right. Because the amount of abuse that I had to take, for example, with my daughters over a long period of time, because this started over 20 something years ago with my oldest daughter. And I had to watch her knowing that she was being molested while the state had her there, and they were trying to provoke me like crazy. This had to be 100% principle and nothing to do with feeling. Otherwise, I would be dead. And she would be still trafficked through the system. Right? So, I get
that's tough, bro. I have a 7-year-old daughter myself, a 10-year-old son, and I can only imagine that feeling from from your perspective and from your daughter's perspective. So much, just gratitude goes out towards you guys for persevering, getting to yourself in a position where you can look back on it and move through those moments, man. Thank you for your hard work and your dedication to your family. I want to say that before I say anything else. With that being said, I do believe that, there's a few different things, and there's a few things I can touch on. When it comes to Yeshua's experience in the timeline in which that he was crucified, I do believe that Yeshua had a great many teachings for a great many years before that time came in his life, where he had a great many skills to operate through that time from a little bit different of a perspective, in which that our feeble, lesser minds, if you will, or lesser thought processes can really eternalize, right? I do believe, and again, this is only based off of my experiences, Dale. I'm not just pulling something out of thin air. I'm not talking about what's written in the book or anything like that, okay? So I just do want to preface that there are individuals who, once they reach the level of self-awareness and spiritual awareness, as Yeshua did, are able to separate their conscious awareness from their vessel, okay? That if they didn't want to feel anything, they don't have to feel anything. I'll tell you one time from an experience, okay? I was charged up so much in one particular situation where I did not feel my mouth, I did not feel my lips, I did not feel my tongue, I did not feel myself breathing, okay? And the only thing that I can physically feel was the energy field about 3 to 7 feet outside of my body. And literally, when I moved my hand, I didn't feel the wind on my hand. It felt like a delay, like the glow, bro, from like, and I can't make this up, okay? Now, mind you, I by no means am as, enlightened or in a position that Yeshua was in the time of his crucifixion and the level that he was at. So that's one aspect of it. So with that being in a thought process of mine, okay, and, again, based off of my experiences, when you say that there's no way a man or a woman could have went through that, I do believe that anybody who has that level of training, awareness, connection, ability, man, woman, child, animal, whatever the case, could do a lot of amazing things. Again, we have 12 strands of DNA, in which 2 have only been active throughout the course of our life. And there are ways to activate the other 10 strands, which will give you pretty much superhuman powers. And I'll leave that part there. The next aspect of it, and when we talk about, the essence of love and what that really is and what that creates, to me, I feel like you are correct. We have to take the scope of what we have been constructed to believe that love is, as like this emotional thing, and that like it's like this like just feeling, if you will, and turn it more into a state of being and a state of awareness. There's the book that I'm writing, there's something in there called a vibrational frequency chart, and the frequencies go aligned with colors and different shapes, toroidal field powers and strengths and everything else, right? So at the bottom of that frequency chart, you have shame, and shame oscillates at like 20 hertz, and that's the lowest frequency that we can measure. It's deep red, it's dark, it's hurtful, shame, fear, apathy, greed, and then you get up to courage, which is yellow, right? And then once you pass courage and you use that courage, you can pass into the green field, which is at about 240 hertz of willingness, okay? Then from willingness, now you come into the growth, expansion, the thought processes of joy, love, peace, enlightenment, and at the top being authenticity, right? So that energy of love is so high, okay, that it literally just like suppresses and trumps any other feeling that is below it. And that state of being can literally change the reality of how we look at a lot of things. And, again, I feel like more and more as we continue to operate in that way, one person, one moment at a time, it's going to change the way that we literally operate on this planet, man. And, you know, there's so much that backs that. Again, the time that we have here wouldn't be able to fit it all in.
Yeah, because we're running up here on time here quickly.
Yeah.
I only have a couple minutes left. I just wanted to say that how I got through things was very different. I never looked at myself. I looked outside of myself, God. And I look at not just the words, but when I read the Bible, I don't just look at the words, but I'm looking at what's being done. Because men and women, I grew up around 5 women, and men and women communicate very differently. This is like when God does something, it wasn't because of random happenstance. The reason why God said for men to teach is because men wrote the Bible. Men and women communicate very differently. I know this. I listen to them, my daughters, my family, my mother, and them doing stuff. I don't do things that way. It makes no sense to me. I see it happening. I know it's necessary, but it's not the way I think. So there was reasons to do this. And men primarily speak more by their actions than they do with words. Men can be sitting down there saying, "I'm going to kill you," by their actions, and women will have no idea this is going on. And so these are the things that they needed to bring in there. So when I look at some of the actions, I see a lot of things that happen. And then I look at having to deny myself, which is necessary, because some of the things that I want are not good, right? And then I have to go to God. Like, I had issues with addiction, and this was nothing that I could do myself. And only going to God and saying, "Look, man, I can't do this. I need you to do what I can't do for myself." And this is how I gained success and victory. And then going through all of these things, because most of what people know is not even the tip of the iceberg. Most people would not have survived this. What I survived through when I was a young man, the therapist, out of her mouth, she's like, "I don't know how you're alive." And that was then.
Yeah.
This was 1,000 times worse and more intense now. And it is like, I mean, I don't have enough time to talk about this, but only because of that dependence, because I know that internally, all of us, we have tendencies for good and bad, and we can lie to ourselves, like I said. And so I have to look outside of myself, because I know at certain points in time, I'm vulnerable to deceiving my own self. So this is where I had, for myself, I said I need to look outside, and I need to have a standard that I can measure what I'm doing to, because I know in tendencies, I will lie to myself faster than anyone else. And that's what we do. Because we justify doing, you watch it, we all do this, something stupid, right? And then we're like, "Oh," and you're like, "But I knew it, but I did it anyway," right? And in a case like with my children hanging the balance, there's no way I could trust myself to do something stupid and cost them their lives, right? That's really kind of how I look at it. Anyway, we'll have to have this conversation, because obviously, I mean, you have commitments, I have commitments, we're running up on time. But quickly, before we close, how can people reach you and how can they help you?
So as of right now, you can find me on my social media sites, as well as my YouTube channel, which is Ineffable_Truths, right? Ineffable means too great to be described into words, and then truths. Pretty soon, I'll be launching my website, and then I will be able to be more streamlined to book my services when it comes to motivational speaking and consulting. Very soon, actually. I'm super excited about that. It's this beautiful next phase of my life. But as of right now, you want to get in contact with me, you can reach out to me on my Facebook, Instagram, and my YouTube, Ineffable Truths. And then on Facebook, I'm Keith Gamble. And the way that you can help me is to do your best to create a joyous and abundant experience in every one of your now moments. Okay. There's no future right now. There's no past right now. The only thing that you have is the now. And if you learn to enjoy the now moment, you will create a reality that you had no idea could have existed for you. And be consistent with it and consistently work towards your goals, right? Faith without works is dead. So do the work, have faith in yourself, have faith in your journey, have faith in God, but also do the work and be consistent in that. And, a lot will change for you. I believe that. Thank you.
Yes, and I agree. Faith without works is dead. You can't talk and do nothing. Like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
There's too much talk and not enough action. And this is why we're where we are and so forth. So his links are in the description. You want to go check it out. For all the people that are watching on Facebook, Rumble and YouTube. So yeah, there it is. I'll close here with a prayer, and then we will then see everybody again the next time, because it's that time. All right.
There you go.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. And help all the men and the women to come together to start doing something that they can protect the children from this wicked evil that we are dealing with in the world, and help the men to get up and be motivated to protect their family and to work with the women so that we could rebuild our churches, our community, our nation, and have some protection for the children who need it the most, is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right.
Dale, it's been a pleasure, brother. I look forward to speaking to you again, man.
All right. Well, until next time, guys.